Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So in the first class we saw, thank you Sarkata for doing this, that the first portion of the Vedas talk about Artha, Karma, Kama and Dharma. Okay? So the pursuit of Artha is not considered a non-spiritual pursuit. The pursuit of Kama is also not something which is to be looked down upon. These are valid pursuits, but you need to bring Dharma into your pursuits of Artha and Kama in order for you to avoid your own suffering, not as an obligation to somebody else. Right? So, in spite of that, even if you follow the pursuit of Artha and Kama and you bring in Dharma, still there is a void. So therefore, then you move to the next step, and that is you begin to recognize that these pursuits, no matter what how much I get, it still does not fill the void. Then you begin to search for what we call the freedom. And that freedom is what we call moksha pursuit. And the topic moksha pursuit is the topic of Vedanta. What is not the first portion of the Veda, but the second portion of the Veda. Right? So in the second portion of the Veda, what you find are the Upanishads. Right? So the Upanishads are, by the name itself, Upanishad means self-knowledge. The upa, the word upa, means something which is near to you. Okay? And what is near to you is what near is a relative term, right? So with reference to the whole the solar system, what Earth is nearer. Then with reference to the country Germany, then what this Witzenhausen, where I find myself, is nearer. And within Witzenhausen, this place, Parimal, is near to me. Within Parimal, this particular room is nearer. So when you say something which is near to you, it all depends upon what your reference is. It keeps changing, right? Near, that becomes nearer and nearer and nearer. So that means in that relative term, what is the thing which is the nearest to you, and relative, it's not a relative term. Something which is near, and it is the most near.
My body.
So the body itself is, it seems as though it's the nearest, but in the dream, your understanding of your awareness of the body goes away, which in the deep sleep, how many hours in a day you spend in deep sleep? So that means it's still not as near. So the nearest without any relationship is the self, I. That is the nearest to you. There is nothing which is nearer, which is I, the self. So about this I, there is upa, this near, that is which is the nearest, which is I. If I ask you who are you, how will you answer this question of mine?
We'll look around the corner.
So So as most of the time as Ruth says that you'll always mostly define yourself in terms of what the body, what is going on in your mind. This is the way you define yourself, right? So if that is the reality about you, then there is nothing to be learnt. But in case that is not the reality about you and you're much more, then you need to look into the nature of I. So Ni stands for what? Nishchayatmika. Nishchayatmika means well ascertained knowledge about nature of I. Nature of I is what? Upa. Upa is something which is the nearest to you. But if something which is nearest to you, because it is so near, you make a mistake about what its nature is, then you need to look into the reality and what? Get well ascertained knowledge. So as Gabby very nicely said, that there are certain conclusions we have about the nature of I, which are what? In keeping with what meets the eye. And suppose the knowledge is about something which is much more than what meets the eye, then you need to look into it. So that is Nishchayatmika, well ascertained knowledge about I. What will the well ascertained knowledge about I, what will it do to you? What difference does it make in this world if you know the nature of I fully or you don't know the nature of I fully? So the last word, Sat. Satlu is the dhatu which has three meanings. One is it removes. It removes what? The ignorance about the nature of I. But it, along with it, when it removes the nature of removes the ignorance about nature of I, along with that, it also removes what? All your afflictions. It totally disintegrates your afflictions. But every affliction that we try very hard to get rid of, there is always a possibility that it will come back. You tried really hard to get rid of your whatever, your sadness. But is there a guarantee that it will never return? No. So anything that you get rid of always has a possibility of coming back. Here it disintegrates forever. So that is the meaning of that. The limitations, the sorrow, the suffering is something that you forever get rid of by knowing the nature of I. That is the meaning of the word Upanishad. Upa, the knowledge of I. Ni, Nishchayatmika, well ascertained, right? Which will help you to get what? Rid of your ignorance, which will get, and the getting rid of the ignorance will help you to free yourself from pain, from suffering. And that suffering is something which is never going to come back. Upanishad, the word. This is the knowledge. Okay. Now, what is in the Upanishad is also in Bhagavad Gita. So when you study Vedanta Shastra, the subject matter, even though Bhagavad Gita is physically not part of the Vedas, it is part of the tradition. When you study Vedanta Shastra, you also study Bhagavad Gita. Why do you study? Because the place of Bhagavad Gita, it is in Mahabharata. It is written by Vyasa. Yesterday was Guru Purnima, and the author of Mahabharata is Vyasa. It was Vyasa's birthday yesterday. It's a huge celebration, full moon yesterday. We didn't plan it like that, it just happened like that. Guru Purnima day we started. So Vyasa, in middle of Mahabharata, there is a jewel which is called Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, what is said in the Upanishad is exactly what is said in Bhagavad Gita. Same subject matter, the nature of I. If that is the case, why Bhagavad Gita has assumed such an important place in the whole tradition, in the study of Vedanta? Because Bhagavad Gita has a few frameworks. In order to understand this bigger reality, you need to free yourself from what? A wrong understanding and wrong notions at so many levels on your daily life. The suffering comes, which is because you make a very big mistake about what is the nature of I, but that percolates down in your daily life, and every situation that comes in front of you, you don't see it in a proper light. And when you don't see it in proper light, so then you understand it from what you think it is and you try to solve it. And you can't solve it, so then you further your suffering. So therefore, in order to understand the big picture, the foundation is that you need to be what? Your mind has to be ready to see your day-to-day situations in a proper light. So this whole thing is what we call, that whole study is called Yoga Shastra. The first part is Brahma Vidya, which is knowing the nature of I, the real nature of I. The other part of the study of Vedanta Shastra is Yoga Shastra. Yoga Shastra means preparing your mind so that it can reach that truth and see it clearly, without your own additions, without your own subtractions, without creating your own stories around it. So this is how will you have that mind which can stay with the facts and not create its own stories? You begin to live your life like that. The whole practice is what we call Yoga Shastra. So Bhagavad Gita gives you the way to prepare the mind to understand that final reality. That's why it occupies a very, very big position in the whole tradition of Vedanta. Then in addition to Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita, there are some prakarana granthas. Prakarana granthas are some people, there are acharyas, these teachers, who have understood Vedanta Shastra and they have tried to put what is Vedanta in their, explain in their own words. Neither the Upanishads, which are part of the Vedas, nor Bhagavad Gita, they explain what they have understood in their own words. These are called prakarana granthas. And Drik Drishya Viveka is one of the prakarana granthas. The author is
Bharati
Tirtha, and he is one of the Shankaracharya. See, Shankaracharya belonging to Sringeri Math. And this is a nice book. It is actually, it's one of the books which Swami Paramarthananda did, Swami Dayananda did. It's a book which is, Shuddhananda has written a book. So it's a nice book because it actually is quite rigorous in terms of this whole inquiry. And it gives you different ways of looking at what is the nature of I. So let's start. The very name of the book itself is Drik Drishya Viveka. Viveka is discrimination between the seer and the seen. So the whole premise of the moksha is the freedom that you are searching for in life. As long as you think that you are this little individual, there cannot be an absolute freedom that you are searching for. The absolute freedom that you are searching for is what, do you want to be limited by time? Do you? Are you comfortable with an idea that in a countless flow of time your existence is only for 100 years, which is what? One drop. And because you are not comfortable most of the time, you can't avoid fear. Because the mortality is around the corner. So that means whether you acknowledge it or not, if this is what your self-image is about yourself, that I am as what? I'm an individual, I'm a mortal, I have limited time on this earth, I have limited power. What is anybody who, yesterday somebody was telling me about, this morning, Lutz was telling me about this, some of these new age writing that is going on in this spiritual circle. And that is all about as though you change your intentions and the whole universe will change. And as Gabby said, there is some truth to that. True, it's true, right? I mean, because you are a participant in the universe, so if you change, then not only you change, but the entire system also changes at certain level. But at the same time, to think that everything else will adjust itself to suit my needs is something which is impossible. If you are creating a psyche where you believe that you can change the entire universe according to your whims and fancies, you are on a trip. So therefore, the fact is, if you are as good as the individual that you think you are limited in terms of your time on this earth, you are limited in terms of your power, you are limited in terms of your knowledge. If I ask you, do you know the discipline called epistemology? And people study epistemology for years. And you will have even difficulty in spelling it. This is true. This is the truth. That in terms of time, you are limited. In terms of place, you are limited. In terms of power, you are limited. In terms of knowledge, you are limited. With what you think you are. And no matter how hard you try to get that freedom, with that self-image, if you retaining it, if you try to get the freedom, you will not get it. So that means that there is only one possibility, and that is that who you think you are, maybe you are not. Maybe your reality is much bigger than what you ever could have imagined. And this is exactly the whole teaching of Vedanta. The teaching of Vedanta is Drik Swarupa is limitless. The nature of I does not have limitation. That is the true nature of who you are. So we have to move from what we think we are to what Upanishads reveal what is the nature of I. In order to move from this point to this point, we need to do discrimination. Viveka. It's not like, because Upanishad is saying that, let us just sit and think about it and experience it, and let's just, go to some kind of a bliss. We are not here to do that. We are here to do that discrimination so that our buddhi sees what Vedanta Shastra wants us to see. So let's see how this whole teaching progresses. The first verse starts with that discrimination between Drik and Drishya. Drishya is seen and Drik, okay, now here these two you have to write because they are very important in the next class. Okay, Drik and Drishya. Here it says Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Drik. Okay, the forms that we see, they are Drishya. Are they seen or they are the seer? all the different forms. You see mountains, you see rivers, you see trees, you see table, you see this mattresses. All this is what? Is it seen or the seer? Seen. Very easy. Right? Not a big discrimination, right? So that is, the forms that you see are the seen. With reference to the forms that you see, what is the drik? Lochanam. Lochanam is what? Your eyes. The eyes are the seer and the forms are the seen. True? Yeah. So now, but what is interesting is, right, that eyes themselves tattu drishyam. The eyes themselves are seen by you. How are the eyes seen by you? Tell me. It is explained in the next few verses, but you will see that, throughout your life, the capacity of your eyes changes. You are born with no glasses, and then by the time you are 30, 35, maybe you start wearing glasses. Then by the time you are 40, 42, you certainly begin to wear glasses, which is what begin to read reading glasses. Then by the time you are 50, 60, maybe you get cataract. So that means the capacity of your eyes themselves is something which is changing, right? And what is drik? That itself is what before, with reference to forms, eyes became the seer. Now the eyes are also, the different conditions of the eyes are also seen. Who's the seer? The mind, right? So here he says, druptu manasam. Mind is, without the mind, can you see the changing conditions of the eyes? No. So then, mind itself then is the druk, and the eyes become drishya. Drishya tu dri vrittaya. Okay? Now, this mind itself, if I ask you what is the mind? Mind is defined as what? Siri dhi vrittayaha. Dhi vrittayaha means, vritti means the thought, and dhi is the thoughts that take place in the mind. The whole mind is nothing but series of thoughts. So the series of thoughts means, as I told you yesterday, there are almost 60,000 thoughts in a day that a human being has. Now, we live in this world thinking that this mind is the ultimate drik, the seer. What Vedanta says is that drishya is drivrittaya. The thoughts of the mind themselves are seen by me. Then, who is the seer? The seer is Sakshi, Drik eva natu drishyate. The Sakshi here is used in the terms of this awareness, because of which you are able to see what? The thoughts of the mind. Before the thought comes, are you there or not? Are you there or not? Otherwise, what will happen? Yeah, you are there. When the thought is going on, are you there or not? Yes. When the thought goes, are you there or not? You are there. Right? So that means thoughts are transient. The thoughts, if you don't do anything with it, how long will it last? Fraction of seconds. You don't have to do anything. It will just go. So that means the whole Viveka is, we have defined ourselves as good as the mind, What Drik Drishya Viveka is telling us is that the mind is drishya, it is seen. Different conditions of the mind are seen by you, your the druk, your awareness, because of which different thoughts that come and go in your mind are known by you. So this is what he says. Now that awareness, is it something that is it something which can ever become drishya? Drishya means, is it something which can be seen by you? The minute you want to see it, you are making it into what? Drishya. The minute you want to objectify it, the minute you want to experience it, you are making it without knowing it. You are making it into what? Drishya. Drishya is seen. So that means just as you see everyone, you also want to see what? The I. It is never going to be available for you to be seen as an object. Even though it is never going to be available to you to be seen as an object, can you conclude that it is not there? There is only one thing in this universe that you can't, you don't need your eyes, you don't need your ears, you don't need your mind to know that I am. This I am is, this is why we say it is swataha siddhaha. Swataha siddhaha means it is something which is self-revealing. If I ask Anna, do you exist or not? Does she say, let me think, let me see, let me go out there and see? If I ask her, is there a flower out there or not? She says, yeah, I have, let me go out, and is there a rose out there? She says, let me go out there and see. She needs to. Right? But if I ask her, are you there? Does she need to use her senses to answer that question? She doesn't need to use her senses. She doesn't need any verification from the senses. Does she need to use her mind to say, okay, now let me, only when I think I am? There was a French philosopher who says what? I think, therefore I am. What Vedanta says, you are, therefore you can think. Opposite. So, I am is a most fundamental reality. And it doesn't require either the mind or the senses to know I am. What is the nature of problem is, yeah, go ahead.
But if you are in deep sleep, for example,
Yes.
you don't have this self-awareness. So
See, the thing is, in the deep sleep, what happens is the mind is gone, but the sense of I is still there, in the sense that, but there is no active sense of I. But when you wake up, you still say that I slept well. So there is sense of I which is there, but the mind is not active, so the thought processes are not going on in the deep sleep. Okay? Otherwise, what will happen is the I, because the mind has so-called resolved in the deep sleep, then you, next day there is no continuity at all. You will cease to exist. But you continue as a person, even though the mind has resolved for a while. I am. The mind, my connection with the body and mind is there in the waking state. I am, and my connection with only the mind is there in the dream state. And I am, and without any connection with the body and mind in deep sleep state. But I am is always there.
you cannot really experience this as a form.
So, Exactly. So this is why, because the I am formless. You always want to understand I with a certain form. That is the nature of mistake, right? We have confused. This whole teaching is coming, but what is very important is in with or without thinking. Even forget about deep sleep. Even now in the waking, for a while, let's say while you are in meditation or without meditation, you are thoughtless. Are you there or not?
I'm there because I experience things.
So, because exactly. So you are there because of which you experience things. With or without experiences, you are there. The very fact that if I ask you not to think about anything, or when you are not thinking about anything, I am still there. What is not operating is what? The thoughts, which is the mind. But I am there. I am there to notice the absence of thoughts. I am there when the thoughts are there, and I am there when the thoughts are not there. This awareness is something which is Drik Swarup. Awareness is who you are. What is the nature of mistake that we make? We make it as good as we make it as good as the body. We make it as good as the mind. The minute you make that mistake, which is what? The nature of the seer, you impute on what? The seen, you become what? Limited. Because the body is limited. Nobody can argue the fact that the body is limited. True, it is limited. What is the nature of mistake? Body is drishya. Drishya is what? Seen by me. Different conditions of the body are seen by me, and I am, because of which different conditions of the body are seen. The nature of mistake that we make is what? The body itself becomes I. It becomes the seer for me. The nature of I. With this mistake, the minute I make this mistake, I become mortal. My existence becomes as long as the body is going to exist. My powers become as good as my body's power. My knowledge becomes as much as what this brain can hold. So this is the mistake between the seer and seen. Costs us a lot. The mind and its different conditions, whether it is a resolved mind like in the dream, in the deep sleep, or it's an active mind, it is constantly changing from quiet to thoughts. Thoughts themselves are changing. I am that presence because of which what? The presence and absence of the thoughts are known. If you are not there, how will you know that right now the mind is not thinking? Then the mind begins to think. Then it moves from one thought to the other. So this Drik is awareness, which is the real nature of I. Now let us look at certain characteristics between Drik and Drishya, which are within the text. So let me not over explain this, and we will move on. Okay, now he is taking at every level. Okay, the forms that you see here, he says Nila, Pita, Sthula, Sukshma, Hrasva, Dirgha, Adi, Bhedataha. The forms that you see, they are what? Nila is blue, then Pita is yellow, then Sthula is gross, Sukshma is subtle, Hrasva is short, and Dirgha is long. Okay, so that means your eye, which is Drik with reference to the forms Drishya. Okay, whenever the eye sees different colors, does the eye take the color of the something that it sees? When you see the color blue, does your eye become blue? When you see the color yellow, does your eye become yellow? No. So, when it sees something, what it says, sthula and sukshma. Something very small, does your eye become small? No. When it sees something huge, like mountain or a small insect, does it become big or small? No. So, and then what? Hrasva and Dirgha, short and long. So all these characteristics belong to what? The forms. The eye, the Drik, while seeing that is already what? Free from the characteristics of the form. This is a logic which is a very, very important logic that you have to use. That whatever is the Drishya Swarupa, whatever is the characteristic of Drishya, Drik, the seer, never takes on at every level. It never takes on the characteristic. The eyes don't take on the characteristics of different forms that it sees. Okay, now Nana Vidhani Rupani. The forms are many. Pashyet Lochanam Ekadha. The forms are many, but the eyes which see the form are how many? One. There is one, yeah, exactly, pair of one. Pair of one. So one eyes, yeah, one pair of eyes, which see all the different forms. Without the eyes, forms cannot be seen. The eyes in this particular case is what? Drik and Drishya are forms. Eyes do not take on the characteristics of the forms. Rule, logic. This same logic now you use with reference to what? The eyes now themselves have become Drishya and mind is Drik. So he is explaining in the next verse that the different characteristics of the eye, which it says, Andhyam patutveshu netra dharmeshu cha ekadha sankalpyayet manaha shotrattvadau yojatvadi idam. Okay. So what is interesting is now the eyes themselves have become what? Seen by the mind. So what are the andhya? Andhya is what? Blindness. Or there is what? The then there is a reduced power, either complete blindness or a reduced power or bright eyes. All the different characteristics of the eyes are seen by the mind. Does the mind become, when the eyes are bright, does the mind become bright? No. When the eyes are fainted, does the mind become fainted? No. When the eyes are blind, does the mind become blind? No. So this Drik Drishya is something which is very interesting. It's logic. All along there is logic. Not just with reference to the final reality. Drik is one, Drishya are many. That is the first thing. Whatever are the characteristics of Drishya, the seen, the seer at every level doesn't take on the characteristics. At every level. Right? So now, the mind is always what, without mind you can't see what different characteristics of eyes, but while making you see the different characteristics of eyes, the mind remains free from what? The characteristics of eye. Okay. Now, here he says, Shrotra Dvadau Yojatyam Idam. When you use not only one sense organ, which is your eyes, you use your other sense organs and it is exactly the same. Your ears. They all undergo different capacities. By the time you are 70, then you have hearing aid. Right? And without the mind, can you know all the changing condition of your another sense organ, which is the ears? No. But while mind is required to know the changes that are taking place in your sense organ, which is the ears, itself is free from it. Okay, so whether it is your sense of taste, there's a Surya was saying that he was not well, so he didn't have any sense of taste. So that means what? There was this center, today Gudrun told me that your muscles can actually do the job, but there is a connection of the mind and the muscle which is lacking, which is interesting. So the mind is very much necessary and it needs to be tuned in order to know what different sense organs and their conditions. And those sense organs, they are programmed in a way that they are limited, and from the time from birth to death, they undergo changes. No sense organ and its capacity remains constant while you are alive. Your sense of taste undergoes change when you are not well, when you are well. Your eyes keep changing, your ears keep changing. Your sense of touch constantly, whether something is in the heat and cold and all, the sense of touch constantly undergoing change. Taste, every food, every meal is different. All your sensations that are reported by your sense organs are changing all the time. And mind is Drik with reference to all sense organs. And the mind, while giving you the data about the sense organ, doesn't take on the attributes of what? The sense organs. This is true. When you taste something sour, mind, does it become sour? It doesn't. Right? So this is what is the... Now, the mind itself is what we think is Drik, but it is Drishya. Here he says, the minute you have mind, you will have all these different characteristics of the mind. Mind is programmed in a way that you will feel some or all of this. Kama. Kama is desires. Okay. A lot of advice given in the spiritual world is give up your desires. And Vedanta doesn't say that, because it understands very clearly that as long as you have a mind, you can't be totally rid of desires. The very fact that you make such an effort to come here and study is because you have desire to learn. Can you eliminate desire? Surya used to give one exercise, and he says, close your eyes and imagine a world where you have, nobody has any desires. It would be a vegetable birth. We are not talking about eliminating desires. This is how the mind is. From the very, the child has desire to walk. This is how the child, many times he falls, but he still what? Continues. That is inbuilt. And anybody wants to reprogram and say, I don't want to have desire, totally eliminate desire, they don't know what they are saying. Even this pursuit of knowledge, according to Vedanta, is all what? Desire to know. Desire to know so that you can what? Freedom for moksha is also, there is what they call desire for freedom. Mumukshu, the one who desires freedom. And for that freedom, the one who desires to do what? Discrimination. The one, jignasu, knowledge, who desires to know. So the quality of your desires can undergo a very major shift. But desire by itself is something which is neither good or bad. It's one of the capacities of the mind. Mind means it will have desires. The quality of your desires, either your desire is to, kill somebody, or you want what? You have a desire to free yourself. Both are desires. One is afflictive, the other one is beneficial. So, you have a question?
The word
Mumukshu.
and
Jignasu.
is it the same?
No, mumukshu is moktum ichuhu, the one who has desire for freedom. Jignasu is gnatum ichuhu. For that freedom, the one wants to know the true nature of I. Wants to know. One wants to be free, the other one wants for that freedom to know the nature of I. Jignasu. Right? So therefore, kamaha is part of the mind, sankalpa. Sankalpa is resolve. Resolve in itself, every mind is going, mind means it will have all this. Sankalpa is resolve. Is sankalpa resolve good or bad? Is it good or bad? Can you give it a value called good or bad? It depends, exactly. What is your resolve? There is no categorical good or bad. It depends what your resolve is. If your resolve is that I am going to what? Take initiative and grow as a human being, take charge of my emotions so that I don't victimize anybody. It's a wonderful resolve. But if my resolve is that, no matter what happens, I want this promotion. And I'm going to get it at any cost. And then you, what? Bypass certain dharma. That resolve is what? For you it is afflictive because it will give you inappropriate results in the future. So that means resolve as such is neither good or bad. What is the resolve is important. So you can totally convert the mind. The whole human growth is, the mind is going to have all of this. How to move it from afflictive things to beneficial things without trying to eliminate things. So this is what we say sankalpa. Sandeha. Sandeha is doubt. Is doubt good or bad?
Depends.
It again depends. Lovely. When you begin to see that, your whole brain becomes nuanced. There is no such thing called only good or only bad. The doubt is the one when somebody was, the person who discovered that the earth is a globe, had a doubt. When he saw the ship and the ship disappeared from the horizon, nobody else thinks about it, but he had a doubt. And he said, why did the ship disappear from my vision? And that doubt made him discover what? That the earth is not flat, but it is a globe. Doubt is necessary. But if you are a doubting wife or a doubting husband, and if you constantly have, where did you go? Why didn't you answer the phone? Where were you? Then that becomes what?
Controlling.
Yeah, controlling and afflictive. So that means if the range, dhihi vrittayaha, they are going to be all this. Nobody, anybody who's telling you eliminate that, they don't know what they are talking about. It sounds wonderful, but there is no reality. Every human mind is given this. It is programmed to have this. So therefore, dhihi. Then shraddha, ashraddha. Shraddha is what? Generally when you, sorry?
Oh, no, it's okay.
Okay. No, I thought you wanted to answer. Okay. Shraddha is your capacity to have conviction. Your capacity to say, let me pursue this. That Shraddha starts, imagine you go to a mathematics class. He is a mathematician. He has never met the teacher. And he really doesn't know whether mathematics is really the truth or not. And on the first day he tells the teacher, you prove to me that whatever you are going to teach me is the truth. How will the teacher prove that I am right? On the first day, before he starts listening to mathematics and listening to the classes, before starting something, if you want the proof of its validity, it is not possible. So he has to what? Expose to that discipline of knowledge and see whether it makes him or her understand things. This conviction is what we call Shraddha. Before even listening to it, if you say, yeah, but there could be another discipline which could also then think about the same principles but in a different way. So how do I know yours is right? You can't begin. you need to have a certain conviction, and you need to give some subject matter. Every subject matter you need to have Shraddha. You have to give it a chance. You need to give it a chance and see whether what it says is valid or not. What is the tool that you have? What is the difference between having that Shraddha, that conviction, and that open-mindedness and blind faith?
One time I reflect and the other time I don't reflect.
Exactly. Shraddha means I'm keeping my mind open, and at the same time I don't stop my questioning. So that means I use my logic. I'm continuing to use my logic to see whether what is being said makes sense or not. In the other thing, I just take the messages and take them as true without questioning them. But in everything, the minute you stop, you go out of this room, we need Shraddha. There is something which is, now there is this whole big thing of IS and things like that. So people feel so scared to send their kids to school. Because it's true that any time there can be some kind of a terrorist activity and all. But can you be sitting here and being paralyzed all the time? That Shraddha keeps you going. You have to have you have to feel that, okay, I want to do this, and this is my commitment, and this is what I'm going to pursue, and I'm going to pursue with an open mind, and then see whether it works for you or not. Shraddha can be in the right thing or it can be in the wrong thing. Ashraddha means you can't trust anyone. Shraddha means sometimes you can have a lot of trust but in the wrong thing. All these are possibilities of the mind. We have this mind. We all have these. There is nobody who is free from this. The mind has potential of all of this. Okay? Conviction in the right things, conviction in the wrong things. No conviction, no trust. It is part of the mind. Hrihi, shame. Shame itself, is it something, again, is it good or bad? It really depends. So it's good. The answer is always it depends. So it's an easy answer, right? So that means that why is it now the better application is you tell me why, in which case the shame is not a bad thing. Generally we think it's not a good thing. In which case?
In the case that I start thinking about it and change the way I deal with it, or change the way of living or deciding. When I see that I feel bad, I want to avoid that.
Yeah. Exactly. There is some sense of, when you, exactly, I think when you do something, does anybody else have any ideas about when is the shame a positive thing?
To behave, if when you have a good shame, you can behave according, is it the right way, to the surrounding, doesn't
Conflict.
Opposite conflict.
This is so true, because we have that whole sense of, sensing the background and doing what we call appropriate. Our teacher used to say, when you become sensitive, you have life of the most sensitivity. You don't disturb things unnecessarily. And that is something which is a very healthy attribute, trying to fit in, trying to see what the surrounding is, trying to kind of, not make those demands. That is something which is sensitive. But the same shame is constantly you're ashamed of yourself. That is not good. Right? So this is what is the nature of the mind. Dhihi. Dhihi means what? Your capacity to understand things. A cognition. Okay? A cognition is, the cognition can start from something as simple as 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, and the cognition can go up to what? Finding out the black holes, where, the black matter, all kinds of, you have range of things that you can understand. Dhihi. You can apply your mind to any given discipline, and in that given discipline there is what? How much knowledge? Tell me. Medicine, how much knowledge? Your 8 years of medical school will give you all the knowledge that is existing in medical field? It is endless pursuit in any given field. Forget, when you know medicine, you don't know so many other disciplines. But even in the discipline that you are pursuing, the amount that you can know is what? Highly limited. But you can pursue it, and pursue it, so you can dedicate your life to it. So Dhihi is a capacity of the mind. Okay? And then what is, okay, these are all what we call bhasayet ekadha chitihi. The whole universe, the whole humanity is making a mistake in taking the mind to be I. The mind is going to have all of this, but if I becomes what? As good as the mind, then it will become what? Are you going to always have perfect thoughts? Are you always going to have all the knowledge that is required? Never. Never you will get there. The good news is that the mind itself is drishya. Drishya is what? Something which is seen by you. It is changing and it is seen by you. And chitti. Chitti is the awareness. Chit swarupa. Awareness is the drik. So this is what we call Drik Drishya Viveka. The freedom comes, please understand, according to Vedanta, is not because, of course you need to work on your mind. I'm not saying that you don't need to work on the mind. You need, as I showed you, you need to have a certain mastery over your emotions, your understanding of dharma, all that is very much required. But the freedom comes because Atma is free. It doesn't come because you have successfully manipulated your mind in a given way and try to lengthen it for a length of time. The awareness, like in any, the different thoughts and the different, all these different functions of desires, doubt, resolve, cognitions, they belong to whom? They belong to the mind, and the awareness because of which these different conditions are known, is it connected or is it affected by the change of mind? Changing nature of the mind? If it was affected by the changing nature of mind, just postulate. When you postulate, you will understand what it is. Imagine how many different emotions you have thought from the time of the birth till now. If I ask you to name all the emotions, okay, Anne is looking totally overwhelmed. I said, forget about that. Last 1 year, just write down.
Still over.
Still overwhelmed. Okay, last 7 days. If that was your nature, every thought would have what stuck to you. Right now, you find yourself free from all the different thoughts that you have thought of. Means awareness has never taken on what? The attributes of thoughts. The present moment is its proof. If the thoughts had become the intrinsic nature of I, they would all be sticking to I. The very fact that now your mind is, you can't even recollect what you had thought yesterday, forget 7 days. That means it's not sticking to you. Awareness, Chit, is always free from any thought that you have ever thought of. Drik Drishya Viveka. The Drik Swarupa is free. These are characteristics, but they are characteristics of mind, which is Drishya. Drishya is seen. The changing nature of mind is seen by me. And this awareness is something which is which is free from it, without which the thoughts cannot be known, but itself is free from every thought that it has had. Okay? Now, this awareness is something that one needs to understand a little bit more about. It may seem as though, oh, now the teaching is over, Drik Drishya is over. Now I can just walk out and start saying, oh, I'm awareness, I'm free, the thoughts are just coming and going, the body is changing, the senses are changing, and awareness is free. So, wonderful. Right? But this awareness, you have a lot more to learn about this awareness. So this is where, here it says, na udeti, na asti esham, na vruddhim yati, na kshayam, swayam vibhati, anyani bhasayet sadhanam vina. This is a huge statement. This big statement we have to see in the evening, right? 1:20 now. In the afternoon, yeah, so afternoon class. Okay? So this awareness now, your question that I am raising before we come meet in the next class is, now you have discovered your awareness, and what is Drishya? Drishya, seen, is what? Not the whole world, but the body and your mind. I have discovered I am awareness, and what is seen is what? Not only all the different bodies, but also what? My body and my mind. She has discovered she's awareness, which is what? awareness which not only sees all the other bodies but also her body and her mind. Now, and each one, suppose, discovers that how many awarenesses are there.
You could ask a mathematician.
I asked a mathematician. Okay, so I do a class in Bombay, and there were a husband and wife coming to this class, and the husband said, as many bodies there are that many awarenesses, and the wife says there is only one awareness. So now your homework is which of the two you think is right and why. So we will see it in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Guru Namaha. Hare